It's called Daytona Speed Weeks. So you know the Daytona 500?
Yep.
It's one of the biggest NASCAR races or motorsport races of the year. And here's how it works. So you got the Cup Series on Sunday, which is the 18th, and then you have Xfinity, which is the series below that, and then my race the day before. And then the day before that is the Truck Series. But I'm racing during that weekend, so there's a lot of publicity, and I'd love to win it.
Is it going to be on TV?
Yeah, Fox Sports.
Fox Sports?
Yeah.
All right.
Fox Sports. It's a big, a lot of eyes in this race, so.
I'm going to be watching, dude.
Yeah, I need to.
What's the date exactly?
February 17th.
February 17th?
I believe it's at 1:30 p.m. the race. It's a big race. It's 200 miles an hour the entire time.
That's awesome.
There's no braking zone.
You excited?
Yes, I'm excited. It's so dangerous. This is one of the races where all 40 cars are all together.
Yeah.
You see a lot of stuff happen. You see people flipping over, flying through the air. It's just one of those things where a lot of things can go wrong, but it's a show for the fans, and a lot of eyes are on it, and I'm excited to put on a show for them. And the plan is to qualify good and put ourselves in position to win. And I think it'd be a pretty big headline if this young 18-year-old driver wins his first ever race.
Dude, we all have the best time ever to start a small business.
If I'm not going to be 100% in, I'm not going to do it.
Come on, man, just be yourself.
Yeah, and
just show up as yourself.
if you don't realize what I'm really about, I'm about freedom, family, and my country.
Tommy, welcome. Got your nerd focus. Shout out to Nerd, right?
That's right. What's up, everyone?
We're gonna jump into your story. The reason I took to your story when I spoke to Derek from SE Arms, give Derek some love as well. He was like, man, this young guy's focus is crazy. From 11 years old, he sent me that reel where you're as a kid in the go-kart and doing the go-kart race in the indoor tracks to now you're going into NASCAR, which is incredible. I think the sheer focus that you have, and we had a brief conversation before we got on the set, is what more young people need to be doing in their lives. We're caught up in social media and private jets and this and that instead of being focused on what we want to accomplish as young Americans. So I'm glad to have you on this show. I'm excited to learn more about you and let the people learn more about you. I'm excited for your first season. You're rolling into right next week.
Yep, thank you. Yep.
Next week. So, Tommy, thanks for being on, brother.
Anytime,
welcome.
Anytime. I appreciate the time, Ryan. Yeah, this is very cool. So started racing when I was 11. I honestly was into it from the very beginning. I used to watch Lightning McQueen for hours when I was 5 years old, but I don't know why I never got into it sooner. But my dad used to drag race. Then he eventually had to retire and focus on his family. I struggled a little bit on where I wanted to go. In school, I was never interested in school. I was bullied in school. I was what you would call the loser in school. Didn't like some of the things that everyone else liked. And I just didn't know what I wanted to do with myself. I was constantly thinking about that. But I tried baseball. I was actually pretty good at it, but wasn't too exciting. Then I went through a funny phase where I started doing gymnastics and dance. Not something your typical boy would do, but
you gotta be in serious shape to do gymnastics.
Yeah, I was like 8, 9. I'm not sure how serious I took it, but yeah. And then I spent a few years off just not knowing what to do. It was kind of miserable, just being in school and not liking things. So, one day it was a rainy day, and my dad decided to take us down to an indoor go-kart track, and went out there, and it was fun. I loved it. I loved beating everyone. And obviously it's like 15, 20 miles an hour, but at the time it was like going 200. Right? I felt like an F1 driver. I felt like Lightning McQueen.
Yep.
So I kept persisting and asking my dad to keep going and going and going, more than anyone else. My brother didn't want to go anymore eventually. And
you were fixated on it.
Fixated. I loved it. And then we looked up outdoor go-karting, and that's what some of the F1 drivers started in to get there, and NASCAR drivers. And we found a local track by me. So we went over there, did a test day. I wanted to go back, obviously. And then went back and won my first race. And obviously winning your first race, your real race, hooks you as a 10-year-old. It's just, after that I was done. The history is written. That's what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And I knew from that
So I want to go back to school real quick.
Yeah.
And we're going to fast forward your life a little bit to say high school. And you finished your degree online. You left high school. What grade were you in?
I did half the year in freshman, and all the rest of it was.
You were done.
Yeah.
And for those of you who are maybe watching this, I was kicked out of 8th grade, and then again my junior year of high school, and went back and got my GED. But the traditional school system is, in my opinion, designed to take a majority of the folk who are worker bees.
Yes.
And when you think contrarian to everybody else, that's why you were a quote-unquote loser, right? I kind of was able to, because I was intelligent enough, befriend a lot of people, but I also knew that my brain ticked on the other side than they did. And that's why I didn't do well in school. It's that why I was a bad kid. So all of those things, I think, are qualities in you, not any negatives. And when you were hyper-focused on something, like when you got hooked, just like golf, you hit that sick golf shot and you play a good round, you're hooked on golf. I think golf is dumb, but that happens to people, right? You get out on the golf course, you get out and play something really well, you're hooked. You were able to hyper-focus because you were interested in it.
Yes.
So the school shit, good for you, dude. You got focused on what you're doing, and obviously you're doing it right, and you're going to continue to find success in the route that you have picked.
Yeah.
My question for you, what's, at 10 years old, what's one of those go-karts and setups cost?
It depends on the level you're trying to race at. If it's the local level, it's probably, the go-kart is probably around $3,000 to $5,000. It's pretty expensive. But a local race or a local series for the year is probably 10 to 15 in the budget. But when you get to like the national racing, the highest level of go-kart racing, even at that age, it could be up to 6 figures a year. So
Yeah, well, you're traveling, trailer, parts,
everything,
backup cart.
Yep, it's crazy. So
and you guys did all that.
We did all that.
Yeah.
We did. We were fortunate enough to be able to do all that.
Yeah, and we had a conversation, like I said prior to, I want to give your parents love because, a lot of times when we're young and we're pursuing sports, it's, even lacrosse nowadays is $3,000 for a season for an average kid who may never play after he's in high school, right? Yeah. That type of sport is even more expensive. So to give love to your parents, to be able to support you there financially and obviously support you in many ways.
Yeah, they're amazing. My dad especially, I mean, he grew up with nothing, right? So he grew up with nothing, and he was always, just like me, he was fixated on money. He worked his ass off.
Yep.
And he got that money. And
I know what that feels like.
Yeah, and he's a very motivated person, and he's a person that believes that he could do anything, like anything. So I'm thankful for him because he was able to get that money, but then he put those mental beliefs,
instilled them in you.
Yeah, instilled them in me, and the fact that he invested this much in me and believed that I could do it, it eventually caught on, and I believe I could do anything as well. And it's just one of those things where it's a perfect combination that you cannot stop, no matter how many times you get put down. You just not stopped. You can't stop someone who doesn't stop. Right?
Yeah.
So,
well, you don't believe that.
I don't believe it.
You're going to lose, and if you did lose, you learn.
Yeah. You could be in the deepest hole. Doesn't matter where you put me or my father. We have an unrealistic belief sometimes that we will make it no matter what, and that's what gets you through the other side.
Yeah, sometimes you got to have, these false sense of realities. You got to almost exaggerate in your own mind. Yeah, you got to be a little delusional to dream as big as you do, starting from the first time you got in that go-kart to thinking you're going to be an F1 or NASCAR, which you're doing now. I want to talk about, you said something, traveling alone when you're 14 years old. Just for, for most people to understand, travel in general, I'm a guy that, I'm this big burly guy and I do all this stuff. I am a little bit of a nervous traveler. I freaking hate getting on an airplane, right? Now at 14 years old, you're getting on an airplane to go race wherever it was in the country because your dad was probably trailering the equipment or your team was, and you had to just get on this plane by yourself. Talk about that experience as a young 14-year-old and how that helped you mature faster.
Honestly, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, but it was a far trip. It was from New Jersey to Las Vegas. We were headed to the biggest race of the entire year in go-karts. It's like the Super Bowl of karting. And already at this time, at 14, I've already been on probably 80 to 100 flights. So I kind of know my way around. And my dad was also the type of guy that just go figure it out. No help, no nothing. Go figure it out.
It's the best
like
way.
Man. Yeah. So yeah, it wasn't too stressful, and I was never nervous about the planes anyway. After
I am. I'm a
so
big
long.
baby, dude. I hate the planes.
I don't know. It doesn't bother me too much, I gotta say. But no, it was the only part that I hated was how long it takes, because I'm a very impatient person.
Yeah.
But
I think that's what makes me a little crazy.
Yeah. Other than that,
I'll get in that NASCAR would you get any day of the week. The plane I don't love as much, but I do it.
I know, especially no Wi-Fi and stuff.
Yeah, it's boring.
Yeah, I landed, had to get in a train, and then I had my dad obviously booked the hotel, but hotel casino in Las Vegas, and I was in my own hotel room at 14 years old, flew all the way down from New Jersey. So it was a cool experience. I felt like a man, even though I hardly had any facial hair or anything.
Yeah.
But it was really cool. So.
But you were becoming a man. Listen,
Yeah,
at 14 years old to take that type of trip across the country, it's a big deal.
Yeah, big deal. Yeah. So, yeah, I was proud of myself. But it was cool.
Yeah.
It's cool.
It's good. It's good to be proud of yourself.
Yeah.
I struggled with that as a younger guy. I was always like, I got to do more. I got to do more. I got to do more.
Yeah, I had that too. It took me a while to get the mentality down, but can't beat yourself up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So tell us a little bit about the ups and downs before we get to NASCAR. What was we went from go-karts to cars. Now, again, I'm not an expert on NASCAR and racing. What is that level that you went up to after go-karts?
So after go-karts, the plan actually wasn't to go to NASCAR. I was planning on going open wheel, so IndyCar. And then eventually we realized that that's basically a money trap. You just get trapped. It's too expensive. So there's more opportunities in sports cars. So what we saw was Mazda Motorsports was taking young go-kart drivers and creating a scholarship and putting the top go-kart drivers in race cars, and whoever's the fastest makes it, right? So
why Mazda?
I don't know. Mazda,
they're big in that circuit?
Yeah, they actually are. Yeah, Mazda's a huge way to get into the endurance.
Zoom.
Yeah, I didn't think so either when I first got into it, but yeah, Mazda was a start and changed my life forever. One, because you can't just win the scholarship off of pure speed. You need to be able to talk. You need to be able to present yourself. You need to be able to present your sponsors and look marketable. And you need a social media following and blah, 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 blah. And at this time, I'm 15, 16. What is that, like freshman?
Yeah.
Sophomore? So, again, I'm a kid. I don't really know what I'm doing. And in go-karts, the goal is to just go fast. There's none of that politics stuff, right? So, probably, ups and downs, that was probably the biggest downs, because I was one of the fastest there, and they'll pay you $50,000 to race in one of their first series to race, and I couldn't speak very well. I wasn't marketable. I spilt food on my clothes in front of the judges.
You were nervous.
It was bad. So, and then my friends who I knew
you speak very well now, and you come off as extremely mature.
I had to learn the hard way. That was a huge part of it. Just to get into the scholarship, I had to create a 10-minute video in my basement talking about why I should be nominated by Mazda. And I don't know what to say at 16 years old. It was, I spent 10 hours down there redoing the video multiple times. It was terrifying. While all my other friends are having fun, hanging out with each other, it definitely sucked, but I knew that this was all going to be worth it one day, right? I also always had a belief that I was meant for more. I was meant for more than anyone else, and I knew that I was going to be something special. So I knew I had to go through some of the hard situations first in order to make life easier later. So those are definitely hard, difficult situations. My buddies, who I thought I was better than, ended up getting the scholarship because I couldn't speak. And we had to pay out of our pocket to race, which was more limited than theirs. But that's life, right? So we went to the next year's shootout and won it.
And what type of cars exactly are you in? Give us a visual, on that.
So those cars,
Is it like Hondas and
they're not great cars. They're Spec Miatas.
Got it.
They were Spec Miatas.
Got it.
So H pattern, Spec Miata. You can't. It's not too expensive. So if you.
It's got a roll cage in it, a shell.
If you crash some stuff, you learn, and the budget, the pocket doesn't get too light, right?
Got it.
So That's where we started.
And then let's fast forward to the car you were in before you're going into NASCAR. What is that series?
That's the Trans Am car. So it's basically a NASCAR chassis with obviously a different body on it. It's a Ford Mustang and different engine and everything, but it's more of a road course car. NASCAR's ovals. This series is like stock cars on all road course. And remember, I started wanting to go to IndyCar,
which was more of that.
IndyCar F1. So, I mean, it was only up to this year. I've probably done 80 to 100 car races in my life. I've only done 2 oval races, and that's where I'm going in 2 weeks, right? So, yeah, we went that way, and it really helps translate into the ovals. Plus, the road course racing's really hard. Like, in my opinion, I think it's a lot harder than the oval racing because there's so much more to do, so many more different turns.
Well, it's all so much more anticipated.
Yeah, it's more intense. So, I'm happy I went down that way, but that's what it is. Trans Am is basically a NASCAR series, but just all road course.
Now, it's so crazy, the different levels. I know, like, boat racing, which I was involved with, there's like maybe 3, in the U.S., 3 organizations, and they're not huge by any means. It's such a crazy money sport, tax.
I know.
It's just just like you said with Indy, it's kind of just a spend. There's no money to be made. You just completely are sinking money into a sport. Did you win at this Trans Am a lot?
So last year was my rookie season. And last year, I was the only rookie to get pole position and multiple wins. But it was a hard season. It was a difficult one. Not necessarily, we had some driving things that I had to sort, but you don't really see rookies just go in and jump in and win. We had a car, obviously, capable of winning more races, but it was a hard year. It was a year that went against us all around. We had a lot of mechanical issues, a lot of things in the races that would just take us out that had no...
it happens sometimes.
Yeah, like
getting the car dialed in, stupid shit.
Yeah, there was a race where, in only my second race, I qualified on pole. So I'm starting the race P1. That's really never happened before. And before the race even starts, the car breaks down. I don't even get to go out. And it eventually gets refired, but then as I go onto the racetrack, they say I can't go back to my position because everyone already passed me. So before the green flag went out on the slow laps, I had to start dead last. So I started 30th, ended up finishing 5th with fastest lap of the race. It was a really good race. And then the next race, I was amped. And I'm trying to go for pole position again. I feel hot after the last race, and then I end up crashing. Just pushed the limit too far.
Yeah.
Ended up ruining my qualifying, and that wasn't great, right? So I had to step back a little bit, regather myself, really think about a championship here instead of race by race, because you could lose points like that. Went into the next couple races with confidence, learned a lot, got a podium, and then I won my first race at Detroit. It was during the IndyCar race, IndyCar and Trans Am combined. So I start 9th. All the way to the last lap, I end up winning the race. I believe I was one of the earliest rookies to ever win in the series at the time, and I end up getting a penalty after the race. So they take the win away from me again. And obviously, as a 17, 18-year-old kid, it's just gut-wrenching, man. So you got to control your emotions. So the next races, I make a few driving error mistakes because I'm desperate now. I want to win. I feel like I deserved a few of them. And I'm just pushing too hard.
Yeah, those emotions are,
oh, God.
They're coming out in the race.
And I guess this is where I have to learn it, right? At this age. But it was just difficult. And finally, in the last race of the season, I crossed the line first again, and it stuck. So I won the race. Which was the last race I competed in back in November. So it was a good season, don't get me wrong, but it could have been better. But that's what we're trying to do in 2024, just trying to put a better season together overall and fight for a championship.
Yeah, you're not looking to be, Earnhardt, this first season in
Yeah.
NASCAR. You're trying to build it, just like, an NFL career. Sometimes these guys don't get to the Super Bowl until their 10th season.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as a 18-year-old kid, you
want it now.
I want it now.
And that's good. You should keep that mentality.
I want to be the best. I want to win every single race, but sometimes I got to hone it down. I've never been a kid who is afraid of it. I was the kid that had no fear. I didn't think about people being in go-karts. There was one time when I was 11, 12 years old, This kid beat me, edged me out by nothing 3 times. I finished second to him 3 times in a row. And, I'm going into the last lap of the 4th race of the season, and I was not finishing behind him again. And going into the last corner, I don't lift. I drive over the kid. I put us both into a fence. I nearly killed the kid and a few other, fans. But that's just an example. It's a funny story now, but it's an example of how I was. So I always had to dial it back. So I was never afraid, but I just had to dial it back. So I have a sense on what to do now. Obviously a lot more mature now, but
so let me ask you this. So like college football, let's just say I'm a junior, I'm a star. Do I go into the draft or do I sit back another year and mature one more season, right? And there's 2 schools of thoughts on that. So you're going in, you have a great season last year, you have a couple wins that were taken away by cars and penalties, and you get the last win of the year. You now jump to NASCAR. And this, I'm just curious, trying to learn, would it make sense for you to spend another season and learn more of that, or you want to get to the oval track and start learning that gig?
It's a good question. It's really circumstantial, right? Like last year, for instance, was one of my best years. I drove consistent. I was smart 90% of the season, and honestly, most of the reason why we weren't able to win the championship or get more victories or per se was engine failures, mechanical failures, and a bunch of just stuff that didn't go our way, right? So
you need a better crew chief.
Yeah, I did. We actually changed one this year, so I'm gonna put that out there.
It's expensive too.
It's expensive. Can't be spending that much money to not see the checkered flag, right?
Yeah.
So
or to have simple mechanical issues.
Yeah. I think if you're wrecking stuff every weekend and you're making too many mistakes, you gotta stay. You gotta stay. Plus, I doubt you're getting any offers anyway if you're driving that way. But if you're getting offers, you have to take it. So there's really no.
So you got an
specific
offer.
path. Yes. So I'm going to.
So how does that work? So somebody who's not, because there's a shit ton of racing fans, and I think racing's blowing up again.
It is, yeah.
Even bigger, and I don't know why, but it seems like so many race fans, even around here, right? It's easy to go out to the middle of the country, down in Maryland by the track, and you see people in NASCAR gear on and different stuff. But now I'm seeing all types of race gear that people are rocking. I obviously see it all over social media. What type of offer did you get? And again, you don't have to go into monetary sense, but who reaches out to you? Is that NASCAR?
Well, no, not NASCAR. It'll be a team, right? So, some are going to try to scam you, some are just asking for money, and some are genuine. But you're not going to get offers unless you win. So
a race team reached out.
Reaches out. So, for example, for the Trans Am series, that stuff's always going to be crazy expensive, and it's very, very rare you get any deal in racing nowadays. But if you do good enough, they look at everything. If you're marketable, if you could speak, it's all real life stuff, right? If you're consistent, if you don't put the car on the wall all the time, and you're a reliable driver, you will get offers. And that's what we showed last year. So I got a pretty good offer for Trans Am this year. Not much is coming out of our pocket, and we're now able to compete for a full-time championship season. And for the NASCAR stuff, again, this stuff's always going to be expensive. You can't, especially as a rookie, you're not going to get it for free, right? So obviously, still is coming out of the pocket, and we're getting some help from sponsors. But that's kind of how it works.
So how do you go down there and were you in Daytona to qualify to get this rolling?
Yeah.
So you go down there. You're in a new car now, or is it the car from last year?
New car.
So it's obviously this new team. What is the team that brought you on?
It's not a certified team that has multiple cars. It's basically a guy who knows a lot about race cars. The guy who owns my Trans Am team is coming along to help us. So we have a good crew chief. We have someone who knows the race cars really well, knows how to build them, and we have a good driver. So it's kind of our little homemade team that we put together. Plus, it's cheaper. I can't afford some of that stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy expensive.
So yeah, it's a lot of the politics that go into it. But I mean, some of the teams, the highest teams in the NASCAR division that I'm racing in now, it's $125,000 for one weekend.
Yeah,
to race in Daytona.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I can't do that.
Yeah.
I can't do that. So I can't join one of those teams, but it shouldn't matter. We'll work our butts off and and see what we could do.
So you're down there. You went down there and qualified. This is how you get invited to the tour you're about to go on, the season you're going into.
So here's more so how it works. You'll get an offer from a race team, right? And they want you to race for them. So either they'll contact NASCAR and tell them about you, or you have to contact NASCAR, but you need a NASCAR license. So what NASCAR will do is they'll look at your resume and see if you're eligible to race. And if you are, you now have your license. You have to be 18 or older to run in tracks like Daytona and Talladega, because those are the most dangerous tracks, right? So, which I am. I mean, that's really it. And in your first race, you have to do good. Like, actually, scratch that. You don't necessarily have to do good. You just have to stay out of trouble. If you get in a lot of trouble, you'll be suspended so quickly. Like a comparative.
So they don't want you banging into people and bouncing off the wall.
It looks bad, right? You're a rookie and it's your first race. If it's a veteran and he makes a mistake and crashes, okay, he's a veteran. He's proven. If it's me, and I'm going into my first race and I'm pissing people off, I'm probably not going to be allowed back.
Yeah, this guy's erratic. He's he can't control his
emotions. It looks bad for the sport as well. They can't let someone like that do that. So that's really how it works.
So when is your first race now? You're leaving this week, right? Next week?
Yeah, I'm leaving on Tuesday. So it's called Daytona Speed Weeks. So you know the Daytona 500?
Yep.
It's one of the biggest NASCAR races or motorsport races of the year. And here's how it works. So you got the Cup Series on Sunday, which is the 18th, and then you have Xfinity, which is the series below that, and then my race the day before, and then the day before that is the Truck Series. But I'm racing during that weekend, so there's a lot of publicity, and I'd love to win it.
Is it going to be on TV?
Yeah, Fox Sports.
Fox Sports?
Yeah.
All right.
Fox Sports. It's a big, a lot of eyes in this race, so
I'm going to be watching, dude.
Yeah, I need to.
What's the date exactly?
February 17th.
February 17th?
I believe it's at 1:30 p.m. the race. It's a big race. It's 200 miles an hour the entire time.
That's awesome.
There's no braking zone.
You excited?
Yes, I'm excited. It's so dangerous. This is one of the races where all 40 cars are all together.
Yeah.
You see a lot of stuff happen. You see people flipping over, flying through the air. It's just one of those things where a lot of things can go wrong, but it's a show for the fans, and a lot of eyes are on it, and I'm excited to put on a show for them. And the plan is to qualify good and put ourselves in position to win. And I think it'd be a pretty big headline if this young 18-year-old driver wins his first ever race.
I'm going to tell you right now, I feel you're going to, dude. I just feel that.
I have a feeling too. And even if not, I learn a lot, but I know I'm not going to be in the back. I know I'm going to compete. It's just a matter of, it's like a chess game. I have to play all my cards right, so, and we'll be there at the end, so I'm excited.
Yeah. A lot of people could say things like that, right? You step up to the podium and you could say this stuff about the football game coming up, right? The Super Bowl's coming up here in a week, and a young quarterback like Brock Purdy can get up there and say all the right things, but does his mannerisms feel it? Does it communicate?
You have to.
No, but you do, man. You communicate confidence, and I see the tenacity in you. You actually hold it back because you want it so bad. It's in there, right?
It's all I want. I mean, dude, I want nothing more to be the best. It doesn't matter what I do in anything, obviously mainly racing, but I want to be the best. You live one time, and 95% of the people out there are average because they don't believe in themselves and they play it safe.
Well, they're dead by 35 and they don't get buried till 75.
Yeah, that's my point. They don't live, they survive. Yeah. And I don't want to live that way. I don't want to live that way. I feel like I'm here for a reason, and I want to make a mark, and I'm ready to risk it all, because even if everything goes bad, right? Even if everything goes bad, I have a story to tell.
Yeah, hell of an experience.
Yeah, hell of an experience
with your pops, right?
And even if it goes bad, I have a strong belief in myself that I could get back up there. You just can't stop. You can't quit. As cliche as that sounds, you cannot quit.
No, you can't.
If you quit,
keep learning.
You fail. Yeah, you don't fail when you quit. You fail. You don't fail when you fail. You fail when you quit. So.
It's the truth.
You gotta keep going. It's that mentality that you need that took me a really long time to learn.
You fail forward.
Fail forward. It's all learning, right? It's all learning. So
you go into this series.
Yeah.
You start to do some winning. You quickly will probably be recruited to the next, Cup up. So that's the Cup Series or a Netflix series. Or can you leapfrog?
I could leapfrog. So one thing about racing that's unique to other sports is there's a ladder, but it's it's your choice on how you go up that ladder. There's no specific path. You could go up to the next. If another race car driver comes up on this show, I'm not sure if there will or will not, but I bet you they have a different path than mine.
I told you the guy Jeffrey, wants to come out.
I mean, you could have no money, right, and not have the money to do it, but be good enough to where you have to earn your way through every single step. And then you could have someone who's not that good, who just buys, dad's a billionaire, could buy their way all the way to the top. Maybe
that's life.
Yeah, maybe you're an IndyCar driver and you get a wild ride to race a NASCAR or F1. You just never know. There's a lot of money that's involved, but I don't. It's just a small world out there. It's who you know, and how bad you want it. It depends. I can't express it enough. Ask any driver.
It's funny you say who you know. So as a younger guy, what are you doing to market yourself? Obviously, you have a decent social media following.
Yeah.
You're doing a good job with that. You had a crazy viral reel recently, which Derek was the one who shared it with me. What else are you doing to get out there and build relationships in that circle? Right? Maybe you could meet a guy that you were you made an impression on that is a billionaire in that NASCAR circuit. You didn't know it. He was walking around in a flannel and jeans. You didn't know who he was. What are you doing out there as a young guy that other young people can take from you to build those relationships?
Never, well, obviously don't burn bridges, but you can't close doors, right? When you go to a racetrack or anywhere, like you guys, doesn't matter where I am, you gotta talk to people because you don't know their status and you don't know what they know. You might think there's that guy's an average dude, but little do you know he owns a NASCAR team and he's a billionaire who's looking to get another young driver into the car. So always take your opportunity to talk to people and talk to the people around you. You don't want a bad reputation. So never, you can't in this sport, especially at this young age and with how many the politics that are around this sport.
Yeah, and it's big egos in it. So you're a young kid coming up with ego. It can work for you.
Yeah.
And it can work against you probably most of the time.
You gotta be.
There's a fine line.
Yeah.
You can be Conor McGregor, or you can be the guy that completely.
If you're gonna be the villain, you gotta be liked at least.
Correct. You gotta be a likable.
Yeah.
Likable villain.
Likable. Yeah.
Yep.
So that's really it. You can't shut doors. You gotta be open to every opportunity. Talk to everyone. Be nice to everyone, even if they can't do anything for you. That's another connection you have that they could help you with. So.
Well, dude, I love your story.
Thank you.
I know it's going to get longer and longer. I'm excited to now follow along because I was able to meet you and talk to you. Two things I want to ask you before we end it. So for other young people your age, or talking to the young 11-year-old Tommy, right? What would you say to that guy that's pursuing anything? It doesn't have to be racing.
Trust the process. Trust the process, and don't get caught up in the stuff around you. Whether that's your friends in school or what's going on, the dilemma in school, because that's where you're going to be as a child. You just trust the process, trust your gut, know what you want, and understand that if you want it bad enough, it will happen. If you want it bad enough, it will happen. You have to work hard. You have to be obsessed, and it's okay to be unbalanced. And your dreams will come true. Just
manifest it.
Manifest. It is true. Manifesting is real because what you tell yourself is what ends up happening. Because I can't really tell you the science behind it, but if you believe you can't do it and you believe you can do it, you're both right.
Yeah, correct.
It's all mental. Everything's mental.
Well, I was kicked out of high school, and now I make 7 figures, and
it's always
buy different businesses, and I help other people get to their dreams, and that was all something I manifested from a young age.
It's always the dropouts who end up making it
because
big.
we're not sucked into the system of the matrix.
Absolutely. Yes.
You're not sucked to the matrix.
You can't get it. I don't want to work.
Last thing is, who do you want to give some love to? Obviously, we talked about Nerd Focus. What about some of your other sponsors you want to give love to?
Well, of course, yeah. Nerd Focus. You got SC Arms, Derek Pita, AI Media, Towson Watch Company, Bayshore Mortgage Funding. Those guys all make this possible because without them, I wouldn't be here. So they're great partners. My father, my mom, they've given up so much just to allow me to do all this. And without parents like that, this isn't going to happen. So I'm lucky to have parents like mine, and I hope a lot of young people see this, young kids, and see how I made it, and and understand that you're going to need support from your parents at a young age in order to get it far. So I hope all the parents out there listening to, don't give up on your child. You never know what they could make out of their dreams. So
It's the truth.
that's what I got. That's what I got.
Good stuff, man. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Cheers again. This is a great conversation.
Yeah, nice talking to you, Ryan.
Absolutely. Cheers.
Yeah.